You can read. There's words there.
In case you have not read on other parts of the internet, in case you're just feeling through the internet.
It seems like a lot of people are. Hey, welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It is the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is David.
Hey, what's up?
Yo.
We're hanging.
We're hanging out.
Hey. A couple
Chase
things.
has business.
Yeah, I got business to attend to. Number one, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Hey.
Make yourself at home.
Make yourself at home. There's a couch over there. There's a couple of LaCroix in the fridge.
Yes.
And we got the N64 out if you want to play it, so
I
feel
brought
free.
Beach Plum LaCroix flavor, Chase.
I was going to say, is that a flavor? Or did you bring one single beach plum?
No, Beach Plum. It tastes like a Capri Sun. It's very good.
I don't think I've had this.
I don't know. Maybe you don't get it up in Seattle. It's not beachy enough there.
Yeah, true. We don't know what sand is.
It's a foreign concept.
If this is your first episode or if you are recent to checking out Podtimism, A, thank you, welcome. B, every now and then we'll just sort of reintroduce ourselves for the people who maybe have just been checking us out. And yeah, this is a podcast where we are optimistic about video games. We try and find the fun in most games. That is not to keep any sort of, or to hold our criticism against the games that need that sort of approach, but generally I think we are trying to find the fun in most games, whether that is in our first bit here where we're just talking about what we're playing, or in the second bit where we do a little bit of a deeper dive on something.
Absolutely. So
yeah, that's what we do here. If you're digging it, give it a review. That would be so cool. I promise we don't do this shill every time, but just for, anybody who hasn't done that, we usually say that at the end of the episode, but like, hey, why not toss one up here? And then also kind of logistical, but sort of announcement. We're on YouTube. If you watch or if you listen to podcasts on YouTube specifically, we are there now, and we'll be uploading like the regular episodes there too. So I know that that's like kind of a big group of people who just listen to podcasts on YouTube, and I was like, well, we should probably be there too. So yeah, if you listen there, what's up? Hello. Yo. What's up, YouTube? It's your boys.
We're YouTubers now.
We're YouTubers now.
We need a fart sound button, probably.
Is that what YouTubers do?
I don't know. Probably not. There's a lot of very respectful YouTubers out there.
Yeah, I will put in the reverb fart here just for fun though.
No, it's just setting up for reverb fart, Chase. You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I recently, we got a bunch of NFC tags. Do you know what those are?
The non-fungible token? No, NFT. I don't know what NFC.
Oh,
NFC is like how you can pay with your phone.
I think it's that, but it's also like what's in an amiibo too. Oh, like it's just it's like a little digital tag that you have. But iPhone will let you just kind of do whatever with those. And so if you want to send a text message whenever you put your phone next to a specific NFC, then it will do that. You can set up a shortcut to do that. And so I put one next to our couch that just opens YouTube and plays reverb fart when I put it very close to it. Just so I let me rephrase. I keep that thing on me, David.
That NFC tag?
No, I just mean like I keep that fart near me when I'm sitting down.
Wait, so it plays it from your phone or from your TV?
From my phone. Oh man, it would be good if I could get it to go to my TV.
So you have the ability to just stealthily do a reverb fart wherever you go. If you decide to take the tag with you.
Yeah, I would sort of say it's not very stealthy at all. It's quite loud, in fact.
If you could program it to someone else's phone, that would be great.
Oh my God, yeah, just the long haul, the long play.
Like, why does it always play reverb fart when I go to bed? Just an NFC tag hidden underneath their bedside table.
Man.
Sketchy, but funny.
Yeah, fun. Anyway, so yeah, we're on YouTube. If you want to check it out there, feel free. We're there as well. Are you playing video games?
I am. I have been, and I will continue to. But are you talking about what I played this last week? Is that what you're asking
That is
me?
what I'm asking, actually. Yeah.
So yeah, I was actually a little traveling over the weekend. I went to fabulous Las Vegas for just a little weekend getaway. And as a resident gamer, I figured, hey, there's probably some good arcades around here.
Ooh,
so
yeah, hell yeah.
I had to go and find one.
I love whenever one of us goes to an arcade, Morton. We just run down the weird fucking games that we find in there.
Oh, I found some very different games here.
Tell me.
Yeah, this arcade had the highest rating out of all the ones I saw. It was in Chinatown, like in the back of like a strip mall, like not facing the street at all. It was hard to find. It was called The Game Nest.
Oh, hell yeah.
Great name. It definitely gave me vibes of Arcade Spirits. Is that the game we played?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it felt like the arcade from Arcade Spirits, which was cool. I loved that vibe. It definitely felt like the people who worked there enjoyed working there and were like, yeah, this is a fucking sweet arcade. They did this really cool thing where you could do unlimited plays for an hour for $11.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That seems pretty cheap.
It seems cheap, right?
Yeah.
But I probably played maybe 8 or so games in total.
Yeah.
If you when you use the card on a game, it like freezes the card for a minute after that.
Okay.
So like if you die a lot or anything like that, then you have to wait until it counts down to get back into the game, right? So they definitely curtail it a little bit that way. But it was awesome. It was so nice to be like, okay, I know I have just a time limit instead of like a monetary limit. So I didn't have to worry about like, oh, did I get enough? Like how much are some of these games going to cost in comparison to others? Like, do I just put like $40 on this card? I don't even know. It's like, no, don't worry about it. Just play whatever you want. A little bit of restrictions, but I thought it was great. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, the vibes of the place were immaculate. Great. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're ever in Vegas, the Game Nest. It's a great little spot.
It's great. I'm looking at pictures of the place now. You're right that it is extremely Arcade Spirits in there.
It's extreme, and the people that I talked to at the front desk, they're like just so friendly.
Yeah.
And nice, and they're like, "Have you ever been here before?" I said, "No." They're like, "All right, let me tell you how it works. You can do this, or you can do the other thing, right? You can either just do it the regular way, or you can just get like the free unlimited plays for an hour." I'm like, unlimited plays for an hour for $11, sir, please. Thank you. So yeah, it's just great vibes in that place.
Yeah.
Great games too. I had not seen a lot of these games in there. A lot of like straight from Japan games that were just all in Japanese.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed because I got a little jealous listening to you go into Tokyo and playing all the fun games. Some of them were very intimidating. They didn't have like any of the ones that you were talking about, like the intense fighting games or the game that made like a deck for you or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. The like physical card trading games.
But they had a lot of really fun games there. They had... I think this is probably one more Americanized game, but they had a Luigi's Mansion game. Oh, cool. Have you played this before or seen this?
No, not at all.
So it's like a cabinet, like the Jurassic Park game. You go in and sit down, and there's 2 controllers that look like a poltergeist. There's like like into the wall or like the front of the cabinet, there is like the base of the vacuum where the bag goes, and then you're holding what looks like the end of the vacuum. One button on there does the light, and then one button does the sucking, and then you have to like move it back and forth to get the ghost to come in, right?
It's great.
Really fun. Really good. It's in first person, it's on rails, so you don't have to worry about walking around or anything, but it just like takes you through. Beautiful animation, really great gameplay actually, and like the controller itself felt really good. It just felt good to use. Had really great rumble effect. So like when you would do the strobe light, it would kind of like buzz, and then you would hit the suck button, and then it would like kind of do like a big shaking kind of deal. So it really was quite immersive. They did a good job with the feedback. So that was really fun. Kicked my ass actually, because there was the one gripe is that they didn't really, maybe I just skipped over it, but I didn't understand how to use like my bomb strobe attack. So whenever there was more than like one enemy on the screen, I just took massive damage, and then that was it. And I couldn't keep on using my card to keep going because I just kept on dying in under a minute, and then I didn't want to keep sitting in there just like I'm gonna wait 40 more seconds until I can go again. For like kids are like out there waiting for me. So I moved on, and I moved on to what was the name of this? Give me a second here. Bishi Bashi. So then I went over to this other game. This cabinet was something I had never seen before. It was just a red button, like a dome red button, and a big dome blue button, kind of like where you can kind of like put your whole hand over it, like pretty hefty button, and then like a circle that spins in the middle. Wow. And I'm like, what the heck is this? It's all in Japanese. I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, hey, might as well give it a shot. There's 4 different like spots for players on it. I just go in and I'm just like smashing buttons, just like, okay, one player. I don't know what you're saying, but let's just do this. And it was really a very fun game. It was kind of like WarioWare made into an arcade game. You had to you're like on rails, and you're like a delivery truck, and you're trying to pick up vegetables, and you have to either hit left or right on the buttons to pick the vegetables up, and you had to like change the what track you're on with the little rotating button in the middle.
Oh, sure.
To do that. One was just like rotate the button in the middle as fast as you can to like wind up this toy and make it go quick. They had great like just over the top names for all of these mini games, kind of like Japanese game show that they played on G4 all the time.
MXC.
It was like MXC.
Yeah.
right? That was the kind of vibe they were going for. MXC mixed with WarioWare.
Oh man, that's good.
And then sometimes you're just like, it was just like smash left and right. One of them was like you were a guy hiding in a cardboard box when zombies are like facing the screen and you're like trying to sneak behind them.
Yeah.
And just to sneak, you just like smash the 2 dome buttons as fast as you can. And then the zombie will like look behind you. You have to stop.
Oh my
Had
God.
great tactile feedback. It was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game was really fun.
What a good combination too of arcade WarioWare.
Yeah.
Like
Multiplayer too.
That's a perfect idea.
Like I was just playing against like what they expected me to get at. Like I was trying to get par essentially for the scores to keep it moving on. But like with 4 people playing, that would be so fun. Just like a group of your friends just whacking these buttons. Great time.
Yeah.
The next game I played was Taiko Drum Master.
Oh hell yeah. Gotta hit the Taiko every now and then.
Gotta hit the Taiko. I didn't know they had this on there, but they have Cruel Angel Thesis on there from Neon Genesis Evangelion, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
And so I played that on the Taiko drum, which was somewhat of a surreal, dissociative experience.
Yeah, holy shit.
Very strange, but fun game. I'd never actually played that game before, so it was just fun to bang the drum all day.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that game has like carried on quite as much as it has. Like, I feel like I first started seeing those like 15 years ago, probably. Like they were in arcades even then. And so it's whenever you play one, you're like, I get why this is popular. It's very good.
It's fun. It's simple. It's straightforward. You don't even have to like really understand the words to know what to do. No. You just figure it out. So yeah, great game.
Yeah.
And I just love hitting the side of the drum. It's a very satisfying sound. And I also like when I hit both in the middle and it makes a very deep sound. It's just good. Yeah. It's just good.
It's good. They've got the like tactile feel just like down with that one.
Absolutely. Then I played this other rhythm game. I have no idea what it's called, but it was the top of the cabinet is what drew me towards it. It was like this 3D cube made out of other 3D cubes. And I was like, okay, is that going to be cool and like light up? It did not light up. But what you had was like it was like a 5x5 grid of squares, and you just had to press the buttons as they lit up in time. Sometimes you'd have to hold them. So it was pretty hard. Some of those of the songs on there kicked my ass because I don't know these probably very popular Japanese like pop songs that I'm playing along to, and B, sometimes you'd have to like really put your fingers in weird places on this pad, and it lights up pretty quick. You're really going fast, but it's it was a pretty fun game because it's just like, all right, you see it lighting up and like fills up to a certain point, and then you press it, and sometimes you have to hold over here, and then you're pressing with 2 fingers over there. Very frantic, but also once again, a good feel to this cabinet when you interact with it. And I think that might be two reasons why I think this arcade experience was so good. A, the games were very fun. And B, I think Game Nest just really maintains their games, because you go to a lot of these other places and those cabinets are just falling apart.
Yeah, they're busted.
The place over here, they're like, all these games were in tip-top shape. So good on you, Game Nest.
Yeah, it's huge.
And one more game I want to mention.
Yeah.
Wacca. Wacca. It is this crazy rhythm game, all in Japanese.
Yeah.
You stand in front of the cabinet, and then it has like this weird, this like glowing rim to the cabinet, right? Has all these like touch sensor buttons on it, and you have to press the rim and like move your fingers around or hold or tap really quickly. And you do through the whole entire 360 degrees of this circular rim that they have created. Yeah. And I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but Chase, I have played a lot of arcade games in my life.
Yeah.
Never have I ever set a high score on anything.
Ooh, really?
But I stepped up to this game.
Damn.
And you're looking at the new high score holder for the Baby Metal song on this game on the normal difficulty. I got a double S ranking.
Wow.
And at the end they said missless.
Oh my God.
I don't know what happened. I went into a trance.
Ultra Instinct.
I went Ultra Instinct.
Wow.
But it was a lot of fun. It was
you
a
got
great
the gift.
Game. I got the gift with that game. Maybe I should go pro. But that game was probably one of the more creative and interesting rhythm games I've played in quite some time. It worked really well.
I feel like I saw a lot of games like this that are like hand rhythm games.
Yeah, I saw ones that were like pianos almost at this place too. Those were very intimidating because I saw a guy playing it. I'm like, I am not anywhere close to being able to understand what you're doing.
It's essentially just a riff on that like Chuck E. Cheese game where it was like the Spider Queen or whatever, and you had to like step your feet on her little like kids.
The Spider Queen crawled so Wacca could fly.
It's a really wild thing to look at. I'm like watching videos of people playing this. I feel like it, like, because it's so big, it looks like it would take up quite a bit of your peripheral vision while you're playing it.
I mean, at least the one that I played wasn't massive.
Yeah.
It was maybe, I mean, I guess you could lose a little bit of it.
Put your whole fucking head in there.
But that's kind of the fun part, is that like you're watching the screen and then you're just like trusting your hands to be in the right place. Because if you look away, you're gonna mess up. But yeah, it was probably the size of like a basketball hoop.
Yeah, sure.
Decently big.
It looks really fun.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, Game Nest, arcades.
Game Nest.
Love
Heads
it.
Out.
Also, has still been playing Sekiro.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I have beaten Gyobu.
Remind me who a Gyobu is.
Gyobu is the one who comes out of Ashina Gate and just starts screaming, "I am Gyobu Okinawa!"
Oh, yeah.
He's on the horse with the big spear. He's the first remembrance boss of this game, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
Memory boss, I guess you could say. But yeah, beat him in one. It felt good. Because I remember playing this game the first time, and Gyobu just kicked my whole ass for a while until I understood what I had to do.
Is he before or after Lady Butterfly?
He is either, actually.
Oh, yeah, because you can choose which order to do, right?
Yeah, she's in the past, so you can choose to go to either her or him first. I think he is easier.
Yeah.
Because Lady Butterfly, you have to have like the snap peas or whatever they are to break her illusion, to make it easier. But you only get one, and then you can't get any more until you go deeper down into the valley, I believe. So I think it's hinting that you should wait to fight her. I feel like I was stubborn and didn't do that the first time.
I did the same shit. Yeah, I feel like he was the first like kind of skill check boss of like, have you internalized enough of these mechanics yet to like get it?
Yeah, no, I like him as a boss, because he really punishes you if you roll or step dodge, and he really punishes you if you run away and don't stand your ground. You really have to stand your ground with Gyobu. Otherwise, he will punish you, because if you are close to him, a lot of his attacks aren't going to hit you, or at least you'll be able to really make sure you don't get hit by them. But if you start running away, then you're just in 100% range of his spear, and he's got some big hitboxes on that bad boy.
Yeah. It's interesting that like, I feel like a lot of games, and especially like FromSoft games, they'll have these bosses where it's like, you have to know how to play this game to get past this one. Like I think Vicar Amelia, like I feel like she was one in Bloodborne, and so is not Gurman.
Father Kazgione?
Yeah, yes, thank you. I literally can't remember anybody's name today. But I feel like those are all mechanical things that you need to learn. Whereas I feel like Gyobu is like halfway also a mental tutorial.
Yeah.
Of like, here is this big scary boy who comes out charging and screaming. Yeah. And you have to like literally be up in his shit to beat him.
And stand
there. So it's kind of, it's teaching you like, don't run away from this. You need to like be here and be like in his face to beat him.
Just deflect it. You can deflect anything, pretty much.
Yeah, and I feel like his attacks, he kind of winds up for a while.
He does,
like he really, like you can really see him hitting the like spear. And, you know, compared to a lot of the other bosses, even later in this game, that are like, they do not give you more than a couple of milliseconds to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But this one's teaching you like, okay, you definitely should know how to parry by now. But this is like a lesson in being able to like focus and have patience, but also like stay up in their grill.
Yeah. And you got to be able to parry well and confidently.
Yeah.
And then also know to hit him a couple times too, to make it easier to break a stand, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good boss fight. And I just love that it just comes out screaming.
It's really great. Good. Yeah.
It's great. And I also enjoy that in this game, the bosses don't have as much pomp and circumstance before them. They just kind of come out of nowhere. You're like, oh, fuck. It makes it feel a little bit more, less epic, but more visceral in a way.
Yeah. There's more danger to it because they could come out whenever.
Yeah, they come out whenever, and it's spooky. And yeah, I think there is, for me at least, a larger element of eeriness and fear in Sekiro compared to other FromSoft games. Like, of course, some of the areas in other FromSoft games are spooky and scary, right? But I don't feel quite as helpless as I do in Sekiro. And maybe that's just because I play a big old strong boy in all those other games, and they kind of force you to play like a Dex character. In this one, So it definitely makes me have to flex my brain a little bit differently playing Sekiro, but there's so many good things about this game. I just love your ability to just suck in all the coins from around you and not having to go and like get everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a nice quality of life thing. I love how fast he moves. I love just the sound of the swords clanging when you're parrying somebody and just how good it feels.
Really good.
Oh man. Because there's that first general mini boss after you fight in the beginning of the game, after you fight the red-eyed giant, the one who like breaks free from his shackles. That fight with that guy is so satisfying because once you get it down, you're just like, this man cannot touch me. This man cannot touch me. And it's just such a great kind of top of the spectrum of difficulty with just a basic enemy in the game. Be like, all right, you know how to beat a basic enemy frontwards, front and back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can move on. They just really skill check you so astutely in this game. And the serpent is still so scary to me.
Oh my God. Yeah. Having to like sneak by it is so frightening.
I forgot that it shows up so early in the game, and I audibly yelped when I saw it. I'm like, "Whoa." And then
like
it's very
intimidating. They know how to do scale so well to make it just feel so scary.
They absolutely do. And just the way that it just slithers around and just really gets into all the nooks and crannies of the caves that you're trying to hide in. Like it really makes it feel like there is no safe spot to be. And there isn't. Like you really just have to just trust your instincts, just go sometimes.
Yeah.
Be like, all right, I know the mechanics, so I just got to trust that the game's going to not punish me for something that maybe I didn't grok completely, right? But yeah, the game is really great. Looking back on it, it is definitely advanced from software, and it makes a lot of sense why I was so confused playing it the first time. I was just running off vibes in a dream the first time I played this game, because now everything just makes so much more sense when you see how it kind of evolved from the base of Dark Souls, and then how Elden Ring has taken some inspiration from this one, especially with the DLC. Like the scatter tree fragments are just prayer beads. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's a very challenging way to level up a character, as everyone now knows and understands.
Yeah, I think it works a lot better for Sekiro because like largely Sekiro is linear.
Yeah.
Like there are definitely times where it's like, do I go into the past or do I like go through the like normal way? But it's not the huge open world that Elden Ring is. And so at a certain point, it's like, well, I know I've found everything in here. I have looked at every corner of this area. So like I can feasibly move on. It won't be that big of a deal. Yeah, I feel like it works a little bit better here.
That does make sense because the shadow realm is so large. You could be anywhere.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah,
they could just be like, behind this tree you didn't look at. Sorry. Whereas it's pretty obvious in Sekiro. Like they come from bosses, or it's like a little secret hidden area that you had to go through one of those little shinobi doors to get to. So, which also are a lot of fun.
Your comment about them forcing you to play a Dex character is interesting here, because I hadn't really thought about it under that guise, but it's definitely true that this is like a Dex game. And I feel like Dark Souls is the strength game. Like you can play a Dex character in Dark Souls, but it's a much slower game than any of the other ones. And then I feel like Elden Ring is kind of like, it is truly giving you a lot that you can do there.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit more agnostic towards how you're playing, but I want to see what their like int build game is. You know?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's just Armored Core.
I mean, kind of. You're managing a lot of different systems all at once.
Largely ranged attacks.
Yeah. But that could be fun. That could be fun.
I know, yeah.
Bloodborne 2?
A boy can dream. I feel like Bloodborne 2 is like almost Silk Song level of like vaporware at this point, that like this is just not a thing that we will be getting as a player base.
Well, Silk Song at least has been announced, and supposedly they are working on it. Yeah. Bloodborne 2, there's never been anything, right?
No, yeah. I think nothing more than like the whispers of the thoughts of Miyazaki. Like there's nothing that's really going on there.
Yeah. I would love a Sekiro 2 as well, man.
I feel like this one is something that they could probably iterate on. Not easily, but like there's more to do here. Especially just because like I love the weapon system that they've given the players in this one. But if you just change the weapon system a little bit, like that's also a very different game. Yeah. And if they tune it as well as this one, then it could be really fun. I feel like it's got sort of a similar arc to Ninja Gaiden in the sense that like you could just kind of keep making these games and it would still be pretty good. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, this is a decently old game now, and it still really holds up as an action game. Yeah, totally. Because I also dabbled a little bit with Jedi
Survivor again.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that game compared to Sekiro, it's just, it's not fair, honestly.
It's a tough comparison, yeah.
Like Jedi Survivor is a good game, but when I have the option between that or Sekiro right now, it's always Sekiro because the gameplay is just immaculate in this one. So yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. I'm at least, I don't know if I'm going to play the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I want to at least get to Genichiro Ashina the first time you fight him, because that was such an unpleasant experience the first time I played the game.
Yeah.
Man, I was stuck on him for like a week.
Yeah, just
easily.
Days and days.
They just hammered FromSoft game design into my brain with that boss. So
I bet you would have an easier time. He seems like the boss who's still probably going to kick ass, but like probably not as nearly as long as the first time you did.
Probably not, but he has three forms.
It's really
There's not many bosses in FromSoft games that have 3 forms.
It's quite a bit, yeah.
3 phases, I should say. Yeah, it's a lot. But if you're good at the last phase, then it's not as hard. That's really what they're trying to teach you there. It's how to counter the lightning. But that being said, great game. Still really holds up. Good. Really enjoying it. We'll see how much further I get into it, but I definitely want to at least get to Genichiro.
I feel like by that point too, you're like, you're not in the end game by any measure, but like you have so much momentum.
Yeah.
That like, I remember walking out of that boss, like, who else could even fuck with me at this point? Like there's nobody left.
I'm the greatest ever.
Yeah, like y'all ain't got nothing.
Sword Saint Ishin was a bastard, and so was
he was tough.
So was the the Rage Demon or whoever he was. Did you fight that one?
I don't know if I did.
He was an optional boss. It's what happens to the sculptor.
I think I know. I feel like I did play that then.
He's like a big red guy. You fight him in the same area as Gyobu.
Yeah, I think I did then, because I remember going through that whole like scene with the sculptor.
Yeah, great game. What have you been playing, Chase?
I've been playing a couple things. So the first one that I want to mention is this game by Techtonica.
Ooh.
Or sorry, it's a game named Techtonica. It is a game made by Fire Hose Games.
Oh, okay, that's a cool name.
It is. It's a good name for a game development studio. This is a factory game.
Oh.
Shocker.
You just needed to go and make some things, huh?
I needed to make another factory. I don't really know where my obsession, like why I have become so obsessed with these games, but I think I'm just kind of running after the sensation of playing Satisfactory. That game just like lit a fire in me that I didn't know was ever burning in the first place. And it's just like, I can lose like days to Satisfactory in a way that feels fun to me.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing that like Baldur's Gate gave me when I was just like, man, I just spent an hour doing nothing and that was awesome.
Hell yeah.
Which is really fun. I guess like for anybody who hasn't played a factory game, it's essentially just a game. Like if you can imagine a game of Minecraft where all you have is redstone, it's kind of like that. Where, you start out with like very basic, usually like mining tools or something so that you can pull up like iron from the ground or copper or something. And then usually change that into some other form that will give you access to like something that will smelt iron automatically or something like that. Usually power plays a pretty big role in these games, like literally electricity.
Yeah.
And like having to manage those resources are a big part of it. So the main sort of games for my canon are Satisfactory and Factorio. I think Factorio is like kind of the more popular one because it's like top down, like I wouldn't call it simple by any measure, but it's like, it's a lot more focused on just the factory building. Whereas I think part of the thing is that like playing Satisfactory feels like programming to me. Like it feels like engineering in a way of like needing to control my inputs and outputs and make sure that I like have everything balanced in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is very satisfying. I really like that loop. And so I think, games like even Hardspace Shipbreaker kind of felt like a similar deal, despite the fact that is not a factory game.
Yeah.
But just like this idea of having to kind of like meticulously think about a 3D problem is really fun for me of like, okay, how do I accomplish the things that I want to accomplish here? With Hardspace Shipbreaker, it's much more tangible of like, take the ship apart. Whereas these factory games are like, all right, how much iron do I need to be making to advance my sort of tech tree or whatever? Satisfactory has sort of big leaps with their tech tree. So it's like, once you hit certain milestones, you unlock a bunch of shit. And then, there's an even kind of larger milestone that unlocks just the ability to unlock other shit. So it's like, you're kind of making these like both gradual and larger leaps over time. Whereas Techtonica and Dyson Sphere Factory, another good one, in Techtonica, you're sort of like building these individual units that will give you more like tech points essentially, so you can unlock other shit. So it's a lot more plotting and gradual unlocking experience. So all of that's really good. It's definitely doing the like, okay, here's your mining thing. Make sure you have enough power in there. Make sure that you're like feeding that into a smelter to get iron bars and whatnot. But I think that the thing that Techtonica is doing that's a little bit more interesting is that there's quite a bit of story in this game.
Okay.
Essentially, you're given this intro cutscene where it seems like, you know, maybe the person that you're playing as, or maybe not, like come to this planet and they've been sent in some kind of like vessel that looks like it's maybe for mining. You're not really sure. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of being done through flashbacks. You're like seeing all this stuff and it seems like things maybe went wrong. You're not really sure, but then you wake up in like the actual game and there's somebody in your ear like, oh shit, like, you know, you seem to be alive out there. I'm this person and, you know, could you come like unlock these doors and start these like factories up again? Mm-hmm. And the way to do that is like, you know, smelt enough iron or build this like thing or something like that. And so it's got these kind of gradual missions that you're being given to unlock more of the story beats. And it's not quite as mysterious as Subnautica, but I think it reminds me of Subnautica in a certain way where like every now and then you'll get like more information about like what happened. And I haven't gotten to the part like, you know, in Subnautica, there's like some kind of nutty stuff that starts happening about halfway through the game. Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten to the point where it's like kind of mind melding and subverting what I think is going to happen in this game in the first place, but it's still really fun. Like I wouldn't even call it a twist. It happens almost immediately, but like the person who you're talking to, you like find her in this like bunker essentially.
Oh,
and she is not a person, but an AI instead. And she's like,
love it.
Before I died, I must have put myself into this machine. So like, you know, the body that we're looking at right now is mine.
She's an AI of a human.
Correct. Yeah. That she like made a version of herself.
She uploaded her consciousness.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so the two of you are mostly trying to figure out like what happened. Why is everything like broken? It should have been like much farther along by this point. I think you're in cryo sleep or something is the explanation of why you've woken up now rather than a lot earlier. And so yeah, it's just sort of like drip feeding you these like story beats that are going on, which I think is a good call because the factory games are more often than not like almost entirely mechanical experiences. Yeah. You know, Satisfactory gives you just a little in the beginning, and there's like some sort of gesturing at like the parent company that you're working for clearly doesn't care for you, but like that's not really what the game is about. Like it doesn't.
It's more just really flavor.
It's more flavor. Yeah, it's not really a big part of it at all. Same thing with Factorio. Dyson Sphere program a little bit, but like not really.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a natural place to sort of experiment with, and I think that Techtonica is doing it pretty well. I'm really interested to see like as this game goes on, if it does start doing interesting like subversions of what I'm kind of like expecting out of this game, because I think that's why Subnautica is so good to me, is that like there was a lot of shit in there that I really was not expecting upon firing it up.
Yeah.
And that like, you know, continues to kind of reinvent what is cool about it over time. So I'm hoping for that. I don't think, you know, the game will be bad if it doesn't do that, but I'm being that it is so heavy on the story up front. I'm hoping that they will continue to lean on that as an experiment of like, what else can this genre be? It sort of reminds me of the conversation we had about Fields of Mystria last week with its relationship to Stardew Valley, because it's like, these are clearly existing in the lowest mechanical form in very similar spaces. Like Fields of Mystria, like if you kind of squint, you could see Stardew Valley, right? It's right there.
Yeah.
But there's just other stuff that it's doing that makes it feel new enough. And it's also why I like Signalis a lot, because for a long time I had been playing these like lo-fi horror games and I was like, there's so much more that can be done in this genre. Like a lot of the earlier entries in those games are kind of just establishing tone and mood. And that works for me. Like I really like that. Or they're doing just like, hey, here's essentially a cool like alternate version of what one of these games could have been if it came out at the time, right?
Gotcha.
What if, you know, Resident Evil was a little bit different? But why I like Signalis is because it's taking all of that and saying like, what else can we do here? That isn't just like, you know, trying to appeal to the aesthetics and the mood of these games, but something else too, which is really great. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I'm not trying to be negative here, but I don't think Techtonica raises to the levels of Signalis, because that was like maybe one of the best games that came out that year.
Sure. Yeah.
But I appreciate that it is pushing this genre in a direction that I think might have more appeal to other people. Because I certainly didn't think I was going to like any of these games in this genre, and I do. So I think like, you know, if you had different things in the genre, it might appeal to different people, right? Like, you know, what if you did have the kind of like Stardew Valley town in addition to your factory?
Sure.
Of course you don't, but like that's, you know, you could combine those genres, nothing's stopping anybody. And so I just enjoy it when a game developer challenges the assumptions about what has to be in a game or what doesn't need to exist in a game. And I think up to this point, a lot of factory games are like, we don't really want story in them.
Yeah.
These are only for the mechanical heads. And you know, of course that's not true. And I don't blame anybody for not doing it, because like if you want to appeal to people who already like that genre, then, you know, you make the game that appeals to them already.
Yeah.
But I like the idea when somebody's like, here is something else that maybe could pull more people into the fold and show them that there is a game that they like quite a bit.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. Like Inscription did for deck building roguelikes, or God of War did for Souls likes, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the kind of like after effects of everybody playing Dark Souls and be like, what if we did this too? So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Two things to note. One, it's on Game Pass, so if you want to give it a try, it's out there. It's in early access, so like it's possible that you will hit the end of it eventually and be like, okay, that's all they've got. I haven't gotten there yet, so I can't really say like where that is, but I've had a fun experience regardless.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing to note about this game for me, though, I can't play it for very long because it gives me a headache.
Oh.
And I have no idea why.
That's strange.
It's so bizarre. I've been playing video games my entire life, and TV screens are not something that really bother me. And playing other games don't do this to me. Like the first time it happened, I was like, I wonder if I've just been sitting in front of the computer too much today. And so like, you know, turned off all the screens, went for a walk, like came back. Like, I wonder if that was the problem. Played a different game and didn't have the headache, and then went back to Techtonica and had the headache again. Like, what the fuck is this?
That's weird.
It's so bizarre. And I've tried so much stuff. Like I turned on the kind of like nightlight dimmer that kind of turns your screen a hue of orange, because I was like,
blue
maybe
light
it's just
filter?
like too bright. Yeah, too much blue light on here or something. That's not it. I went into like my NVIDIA settings to like change the color of things. Like I was like, is there too much red? Is there too little red? Is there too much green?
Is there a lot of text?
There's text, but I feel like I'm not really reading it more often than not. Because a lot of it's voice acted, and so I don't feel compelled to read it. But just for whatever reason, when I'm playing it for too long, I get a fucking headache. And so it's not a game that I can, like, I'll sit down and play Satisfactory and 3 hours will go by and I barely notice. But this one, like, I'm half an hour in, I'm like, oh, my eyes are a little tired. Like, I need to, like, look out the window to, like, readjust what I'm looking at. It's so bizarre.
That's weird. Does it have like,
it's just very
like a poor depth of field or something like that?
Something like that. I messed with like the field of view and shit to try and see like, is it too wide? Is it too narrow? I have no idea what the problem is.
That's wild.
So, you know, just, I guess keep that in mind if you're playing it, that like maybe that will happen to you too.
Buyer beware.
Yeah, buyer beware.
The fire hose is too strong. It's just trying to put the game straight into your brain.
Yeah, I'm getting too many pixels, man. I feel like some people talked about this with The Outer Wilds, which is a real shame for me because like that game is so good and I want everybody to play it. But like I understand when like the whole screen is rotating left or right and you're in like 0G. It's
yeah.
I could see
that's
that making
motion sickness for sure.
Yeah, giving somebody a headache or giving them motion, like making them nauseous, like that would suck. But I never expected it in this game. It's so strange. There's not even that, like I turned off camera sway and like head bob, so I'm just like going directly and nope, still there. I have no idea what the problem is. So it could easily be a me thing. Like just the look of the game is too much for my brain. Brain too smooth, can't handle Techtonica.
Wow.
But if anybody decides to check this out, let me know if you get a headache. Let me know if that's a thing you have.
Asking for science for my doctor to know.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, so that's Techtonica. It's on Game Pass. Give it a look if you're interested. The other game that I've been playing, and one that I touched on a little bit last week, is Final Fantasy XIII, David.
Oh, yeah. So still in that one, huh?
I'm still playing Final Fantasy XIII.
Is Lightning still cool?
Lightning is still extremely cool. She just does dope shit all the time. I love whenever she does something ridiculous and like snaps and she can like turn on her like electricity power. Extremely, extremely cool. She like jumps off of buildings and lands very gracefully. because she can do this little power that she has. It is a very interesting game, this game. I think something I mentioned last week was that my main criticism of it when I played it the first time, because I played this when it came out, which was I think in 2010, was that, or it may have been the end of 2009. It was somewhere around there. My main criticism was just that like the linearity really started to crush me at a certain point. The game is oftentimes asking you to just kind of directly run down a hallway, fight some people, and then get some story. And I think at the time I was really, I bristled at that quite a bit. And I think part of the problem was that my brain wanted the arc of video games to continue on to being complicated and more complicated. I was sort of bought into like the GTA model of games where like every next entry has to be like exponentially more complicated than the last one.
Chase wanted Steel Battalion for everything.
Yeah, I wanted Steel Battalion. And I think like RPGs were just in kind of a strange moment at the time. Like there was a lot of like blending of genres and shit like that. And everything was kind of like, I wouldn't say coming out in the wash, but there was a lot of experimentation at that moment. And I think what I was hoping for was Final Fantasy X. I just wanted 10 again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of strange because like Final Fantasy X is also largely a story Final Fantasy game. There's a lot of story in there. And like there's definitely mechanical shit going on, but it's like a pretty linear game too. But even compared to Final Fantasy 13, like Final Fantasy 13 will oftentimes just have you walk down a hallway and beat some guys up and then get the story. Whereas like most of the time Final Fantasy X at least has a couple of open areas that you can kind of wander around in. And so at the time, it felt like the things that I was looking for kind of detracted from the experience. And oftentimes when I'm reaching for RPGs, especially that era, I'm buying into the world when I can go and interact with a lot of it or wander around a lot of it, right? I think about the moment in Final Fantasy VII, like leaving Midgar for the first time and like having the world map open up and feeling like, holy shit, like I can go any of these places, despite the fact there's like 4 locations on the map that you can go to at that time.
Sure.
But it feels big. And I think a hallmark of that games of that era was a moment when you got the airship, right? It's like that happens a lot in these Final Fantasy games. And it feels like, wow, I can go to so many places. And the breadth of your journey can be felt very acutely in those moments of like, wow, I've come so far, and I can go back to these places that I've already been. And so it makes the world feel connected in a way mechanically. And I liked that a lot. I think that 12, the one that preceded 13, was also a deeply mechanical experience. Like the fighting of it was very mechanical. The like system that they had in place was like almost programming a lot of the time.
Wow.
I think it's the Gambit system or something like that. Essentially, like you're just writing if or else statements a lot of the time. At the very least, logic, right? You're using a lot of logic there. And there's just so much other shit going on of like, okay, there's monster hunting boards that you can go to whenever you go to a new town. There's all this like political intrigue going on. There's just like the world is expansive. You can wander around in it quite a bit. And so for the contrast of that to go directly into 13, I think I was expecting more complication, more mechanical stuff going on. And I think that's in 13, but just not in the way that I was expecting it. The game offers a lot of complexity in its battle system, but it doesn't show you that quickly, right?
Sure.
The battle system is incredibly simplified at the beginning. The button that you are just kind of automatically selected is auto battle. So if you open up the menu in a battle or in a turn-based battle, it's just you're pretty much always choosing auto battle, which most of the time is just hit. You know, you don't have a lot of spells initially. There's not even really that many items, so it's kind of just like face rolling onto the enemies for a while. It also does the thing that I think something like Chained Echoes does as well, where after every battle you heal to full health. And so each battle kind of feels like its own little entry or like instance.
Sure.
And in something like Chained Echoes, I found that immediately a lot more gripping just because it was like the game is offering almost a puzzle to solve each time you step into a battle. And if I remember correctly, that is where 13 gets to eventually, but it's not there initially.
Gotcha. It's a slow build up.
It's a slow build. And I think all of that to say, the game is not as focused on the fighting as the thing that it is doing. The game is so much more focused on story and specifically characters. This is like just an ensemble game. That is the point of this video game, is that you are getting, 6 different perspectives and you're shifting between them constantly, especially in the beginning where, you're hanging out with Lightning and Saz, and then you switch over to Snow. and then you go to Vanille and Hope and shit like that. And all of these are sort of like crisscrossing in kind of interesting ways. They're all like in a same like zone at the same time. And so you'll see things from different characters' perspectives every now and then of like, oh, that just happened over there. And then we're going to switch over to this character and check out what they're doing. And they're immediately setting up so much conflict between the characters, right? Like Snow is hunting for Sarah, who you don't really know what her deal is, but he seems to, be calling himself a hero and trying to find her. And Lightning's looking for something. You're not really sure, but you will eventually go on to find out that like her sister is Sarah, right?
Lightning and Sarah.
Yeah, well, kind of a wild naming there. They really fired from the hip on the second
Sure
kid.
did.
Or the first one. I don't remember who's older. And Snow is also the leader of this kind of like rebel group. And Hope, at some point, like he's running away with a bunch of these, like, I guess, refugees. And his mom like volunteers to fight with the rebel group for a little while. And she ends up dying like almost immediately. It's like one of the first things that happens in the game. And Hope is just immediately pissed at Snow and hates the guy, right? Like, you caused my mom to die. And so it is all just sort of setting up like, here are these conflicting ideas and people that are all essentially about to run into each other in the beginning. And I think that that's like very cool and very fun. And again, is just so a different focus than the rest of the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
Or at least like to a different degree, right? I think all of them are at least in some way focused on story, but I think this one is just like so centered on characters in a way that like, it's hard for me to think of another one that is more character focused, because like 7 is very much, about Shinra and about like Gaia and like all the fucking stuff going on there. And like you get a little bit of it with like Cloud and Sephiroth and shit like that. And, the cast is very strong in that game. But I just get a different sense from the writing in 13, where it's like a lot of the point of it is to explore these characters and what they're motivated by and like what they brush up against and all that sort of stuff, which is all very good. Like all that is written pretty well. And like a lot of the cast is immediately pretty likable. I think Saz is like a standout. He's the voice actor for him is just doing an incredible job. He sounds like so a person, like sometimes you play a video game, you're just like, God damn, this doesn't sound like how humans talk.
Yeah.
But Saz really sounds like that's a human,
All right.
Which is really good. Obviously, Lightning rips and just is so cool. I love the pairing of Vanille and Hope, because Hope is like he's like too young to be Cloud Strife, but he's kind of like angry and edgy in a way that Cloud is. And Vanille is like almost the polar opposite of like, Hope is always telling him like, here's how the world works. Like, you can't just be doing these things. Like, you're going to get yourself in danger. And she's like, I don't really, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Or they start running into, or they're about to run into Snow, and Hope is like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've got all these feelings. And Vanille's like, just go tell him what you need to tell him. And he's like, I don't know if I could do all that. And she's like, okay, well, I guess we just run the fuck away then. Like, she's very pragmatic in a way that I think is like incredibly charming and fun. And yeah, I just like all of that. Snow is kind of the lower part for me in the beginning. And I wonder if that's just Troy Baker, him just being there. Like, I see all the other characters that he's played. And
he brings a lot of baggage with him now, huh?
I think so. I don't know. I want to be open to Snow being cooler in the future, because he's kind of just like standard protagonist right now. And I suspect that he probably will grow on me. But in the beginning, I'm just kind of like, I don't love whenever it switches over to him. But I do love all of the rebels in his group. They're all very fun. So yeah, it's a very bizarre video game, but I'm also compelled by it. And I think especially after playing 16, because 16 was farther on the mechanical side and like almost God of War at certain points, and there are some set pieces in that game that fucking rock and are really cool. But something that I kind of felt was missing was like, I need more time with these characters, despite the fact the game is very long. That like, I wish they kind of made good on the promise in the beginning of that game, where it's like, it seems like they're setting up so many different conflicts of interest and people and intrigue and characters and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really always pay off for that.
Sure.
It does in moments. And I think that like Clive is an interesting character and I like him, but some of the other characters, especially the women, feel very flat in that game.
Sure.
Whereas like most everybody in 13 already feels pretty cool to hang out with. And so I think going into it now, I have definitely a perspective shift, a paradigm shift, if you will. Ooh. That's a joke for all the people who have played more of Final Fantasy 13. It's like a battle system thing. That's not really a spoiler.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot more. I will say, like, I still think, 9 and 10 and 14 to some extent too. Like those are kind of the ones that I'm going to reach for still. Like I still really enjoy the world building and it allowing you to wander around in that space. And I know eventually 13 does that, like 40 hours in.
Yeah.
But so, you know, point being, like, I don't feel myself as compelled to play this game all the time in the way, like, you know, when I was playing through 9, even though the fact that, you know, the game came out 20 years ago at this point, I still felt like really drawn into the world. Whereas this one, like, I'm a little bit less so. For sure. Like it's something that I generally prefer the other ones for, but I don't get as strong as characterization in a lot of the other ones. It's definitely there in some of them, but like very much in on the characters that they've presented in 13 so far. Cool. It's also worth noting, God damn, the soundtrack is really good in this one. Really got good music in this one. Specifically the battle theme just like really gets stuck in my head. Yeah. It's a real banger. I really, really like it.
Good music goes a long way.
It really does, especially good battle music because you're hearing it so often. Really great. Also, like the lore kind of immediately slaps. Like it's really, really good.
They set up.
Oh man, they set up this conflict where like, you know, there's these two worlds, one of them being Cocoon and the other one being Pulse. And there are these like essentially god robots that are in charge of different functions of each of those worlds. And the people in Cocoon all think like, oh, if you even come into contact with something from Pulse, you're like gonna turn into essentially like a demon, right? Like just like a bad dude. But they employ these like god robots so often. They look so fucking cool of just like this nearly religious figure that comes into these areas, but is also like clearly very futuristic and robotic.
Rad.
It's so cool.
That's cool.
Like, I love that shit. Yeah. It's like, it's flirting with almost like 40K, like Warhammer sort of shit.
Okay. Yeah.
Where there's like religion imbued in a lot of the machines that they have. And it doesn't go to nearly the sort of like grimdark places that 40K does, but like I love that. That sort of stuff really keeps me going. And whenever there's like a cutscene of one of these huge Lysae or Falsae, I don't remember the nouns yet. I haven't been playing enough, but one of those, whenever they show up, I'm just like, this fucking rocks. This is the coolest thing ever. And so I think I do wonder like if just my experience with enjoying spectacle as a thing that I can enjoy in video games by way of like essentially Honkai Star Rail and ZZZ and shit like that, where the point of it is like, whoa, that is cool. If that is kind of pulling me along here, in addition to all the character shit that is actually working really well. So yeah.
Sounds like it works.
I think so. For now, at least. I'm definitely finding myself a lot less frustrated than I was at the time. And I also wonder if that's just like I was 19 and had zero money and spent $70-$60 on Final Fantasy 13. Was like, damn, dude, and this is not what I wanted.
Yeah, that's real.
It is, but it's much. I don't know. I think like many people, my opinion of a game is oftentimes clouded by its financial worth to me, and that's just like it's kind of a tough way to gauge if a game is good or not. Is like, you know, does this meet $60 worth of fun?
The opportunity cost. Especially, like, how many movies is that?
Yeah, exactly. Which is, again, it's just like, I find that kind of a challenging way to navigate like viewing art. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, this will all bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
David, it's a save point.
A save point.
It's a save point.
The save point is a safe point.
It really is. Talk about something that just on the face of it, you can't make any less mechanical. Like, it's the game being like, do you want to like log your story to the memory of the video game?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, with autosave, you get a little bit less of that. But every now and then a game like Final Fantasy 13 happens where it's like, go touch the big orb and then you can save. Most Final Fantasies will do that, where it's just like a shining beacon that you go stand in. You can save your game. But I love it when there's a fun save, you know?
A good typewriter room.
Oh my God. Yeah. The music in any Resident Evil typewriter room always works for me. I also love the idea of fucking himbo Leon Kennedy going in and typewriting his story up to that point. It's a really funny.
It's just Leon's diary.
Yeah, dear diary. It was really fucked up today. Saw some bad stuff.
Ava was so mean to me.
The Plagas are total dickheads. I hate it. But a lot of games will make this like very fun, right? I really love that Silent Hill started the like, here's the little red square that you save in, and then so many other horror games are like, let's just do that. Let's just take the red square And that's the place that you can save. I think Signalis does that as well. That's just really fun. And like kind of a nod to all the people who have played those games who are like, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason it has to be that, but I love when it is. Or the, I think about Undertale or something like that has very fun saving. Oh yeah, in Mother 3, you just like talk to a frog and they're like, I'll record your journey. And they seem to all be different frogs. And so whenever you see one or save, they're like, give my regards to the next frog you see.
Pass it down by like verbal? Like it's like a
something
a verbal
like that.
lore?
Yeah. If you like dig under any of the explanations, they're all very bizarre for like saving and shit.
Don't look too hard.
Yeah. But I love it. I love a good save point. I also really, really like one of the like actual serious answers is the one in Ico where you get to like sit on the bench and like just kind of hang out. It's like honestly a save point for the system, but it also mechanicalizes like taking a break and sitting and being like, wow, this is beautiful. This is really nice.
Yeah. Take a load off.
It's a safe place for your brain, you know? Do you have something fueling your sense of optimism, David?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the unlimited plays for 1 hour at the Game Nest arcade. It's
very
so good.
Specific thing. Yeah, that's really cool.
I was so excited about that.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect amount of time. I had pretty much just like an hour to spend. I didn't leave like any points on like one of these cards.
Yeah.
That then is like, I guess I'm never getting that money back anymore. It's so frustrating with modern arcades sometimes. But it just felt so like pro gamer, pro consumer. I just loved it. It was a breath of fresh air. Yeah. So I mean, it would be awesome if more arcades would do this, but I'm sure they probably won't. But it just felt so liberating. So liberating.
Sure. I wonder if they did the math of like people will come here and spend less than $11. And like if we just get them in the door to do this, it feels like a deal, but they end up spending more money than they would have anyway.
You know?
But even still, like I feel like good about that transaction because I'm like, that feels pretty generous to me.
Yeah, it's true. Like I went to another arcade and I spent only $6. Maybe Game Nest is onto something.
Maybe they are. Do they have like snacks and drinks and shit there?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's how they get you, man. They're like, them you should spend an hour here, and oh man, doesn't that Coke look cold and good?
I know you're really hot from playing like 5 rounds straight of Wacca. So come on over, drink a Coke.
Yeah,
it's good for you.
It's so good for you. There's so much sugar. It's great. That's awesome. I also hope that like more arcades would adopt that because I just have to assume that the vast majority of people who are coming in aren't spending that much money there. That they're like probably dropping a couple quarters into a couple machines and like that's it. Versus like, that $11 is going to be there if you like can sell these people on.
And it's like the serious people who want to sit down and play like a specific game who are probably the ones who like spend a lot of money in those places. They can still do that by getting a different card, but they can't do that if they do the unlimited card because after an amount of time, you're going to have to go and get another one. Yeah. Or if you die too much, probably those people don't die that much, but they just have to wait 60 seconds for it to recharge.
Yeah. That feels fair enough to me.
I think
that you can't just keep slamming credits in there.
It was almost like never an issue.
Yeah, that's kind of what I imagine, that like there are very few games where 60 seconds is the amount of time it takes you to totally drain your life out of one of those. So that feels fair to me. Plus you like can't just tag in 4 other friends.
Exactly. I think that's also what it's designed for. So you can't have like 4 people playing for $11 for an hour.
Yeah. Which also like, okay, fair. Yeah. Like you at a certain point you do have to make money as an arcade. And so like, all right, I'll pay for admission.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know?
It's good.
Yeah, it's chill. Yeah, it's a good one. I like that. I'll have to make a trip out to Las Vegas specifically for this.
It doesn't disappoint.
Oh, yeah.
There's a good tiki bar around the corner too.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like your tiki noise?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Ooh, yeah.
It just sort of came out of me. Do you want to move on to our main thing, David?
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
Booping and scooping.
Hey, welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. I think we may be on a tear of doing just actually good video games.
This game was 100% my shit.
This is so fucking good.
Was really good.
We got suggested by listener Robert to play Hyper Light Drifter. On the topic, Robert had to say, dude, this game slaps ass in the best way. It's a newer top-down, quote, retro, unquote, indie, but it is absolutely stunning to look at, and the audio is all on point. It's extremely artistic, and even the combat is very stylized. The few conversations are played out as consecutive art pieces. It's like non-committal lo-fi action. Which I agree.
Yeah, I see no lies there.
Yeah, no lies. Had you, Robert, thank you for suggesting this game.
Thank you.
David, you hadn't played Hyper Light Drifter before, right?
No, I'd heard of it. So I was like aware of it on my peripheries, but had never taken a deep look at it or considered it. I think it has popped up on some of the streaming services now and then, or gone on sale now and then for different consoles, but I just never pulled the trigger and bought it or played it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I feel like it was around the time where like indie games were really starting to like pop off in a way. Because I feel like in the early 2010s, it was like Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac and like Hotline Miami were kind of the only things that you had as far as, and of course, it's discounting a lot of other games. I think even Bastion was out at the time, but like for whatever reason, 2016 stands out to me as the time where like indie games started really finding their footing. This was
made in 2016?
This, initially came out in 2016.
It still feels so fresh.
It really does. And I think that's kind of what I'm like feeling here is like, this doesn't feel like that old of a game.
Doesn't feel like an 8-year-old game. No.
Whereas like even Undertale, a game that I think holds up incredibly and is a really good game, came out a year prior, and to me, just like my brain categorizes them as like that was a different era of indie game making. Whereas like kind of all in a row from like 2016 onward, you started getting just like absolute bangers of indie games, right? Like Stardew came out in 2016. This was 2016. Like Cuphead was in 2017. Celeste was 2018. Dead Cells was 2017. Like Hollow Knight was 2017. So like there's just this barrage of games that are like not necessarily big names up to this point, but are just absolutely crushing it. Whereas it felt like to me up to that point, it was largely like mainstream games are the ones that were at least still getting covered the most as like, here's the good shit. There was, sort of a dam breaking moment. And for whatever reason, my brain thinks of Hyper Light Drifter as one of those games that kind of like broke down the wall of indie games being like a thing that people say are like the best shit that came out that year.
Absolutely.
Before we get too far, can I hit you with a few hot stats?
Let's hear it.
All right, cool.
Hot stats.
So, as suggested, Hyper Light Drifter came out March 31st of 2016 for the PC. It would eventually go on to be released in July of that year for PS4 and Xbox One, and then it was released on Switch in 2018 as well. So, fairly quick follow-up from like when the Switch released in 2017 to it coming out there as well.
Cool.
This was made by the company called Heart Machine, who made this, obviously, and then Solar Ash was their other game that's out.
Oh.
And then the upcoming Hyper Light Breaker is also their deal.
Oh.
So yeah, it's worth mentioning that Heart Machine was founded by this dude, Alex Preston, and we will talk more about him later.
Oh, is this ominous?
No, not an ominous thing. It's his like experience in life goes on to inform a lot of this game.
Okay, I was fearing like a David Cage situation.
No.
Okay.
Mercifully, no. Alex seems fine. I don't know him, but he hasn't said anything horrendous so far as I know.
Good. Okay, at least not publicly.
Yeah, at least not publicly. So yeah, it's but yeah, just worth mentioning that it's this is largely a company that he founded, and his story is kind of weaved into this game as well.
That's cool.
Even the name of the company called Heart Machine.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a review from our friends at GameStar Germany.
Ooh,
they wrote a review of Hyper Light Drifter, and I ran it through Google Translate a number of times, one language to another, eventually spitting it back out in English to get an artist interpretation. And Joe Video, watch out. This is a good one.
All right, let's hear it.
Super Light Drifter is a pure / love-hate relationship. Like when I discovered the Souls series, I took away a lot of adult curses. But before reading the first story, I wondered if I had a concept of love. If you found yourself dead, would you go back? Was it 2016 or 1991 when The Legend of Zelda Awakening of the Gods was released?
Ooh.
But Hyper Light Drifter is a game that inspires you, even while you're immersed in it. Sometimes we get tired of the same old stuff. Pixel perspective doesn't work, and the name isn't anything new, but Hyper Light Drifter showcases passion, creativity, and powerful questions. I am positive and will always stay that way, even if the pain is lessening. And they gave that an 8.5 out of 10. I liked it.
That really did have the secret sauce of a Joe Video on there.
There's like totally coherent sections in there. And then I am positive and will always stay that way, even if the pain is lessening. Got a little everything everywhere all at once going on in there.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
If you found yourself dead, would you go back?
I mean, If I found myself dead, I think I already had gone back at that point, right?
Yeah, it's true. Just by being there, you might have gone back.
Just by being there. Also, what was the Legend of Zelda Awakening of the Gods?
Awakening of the Gods. That sounds like an actual Zelda game.
That sounds tight. Yeah. That sounds like a Zelda, a Hyrule origin story.
Mm-hmm. I would play.
I'd play it.
I would play it. Can you tell me about this game, David? What is this?
Yeah, so Hyperlight Drifter is a top-down Zelda-like a Link to the Past. So you take on this character, this nameless character. Some very intense things happen in the beginning. There's giant robots and there's explosions and then darkness and then like Anubis doors, essentially like Egyptian god of death, like cat sort of deal. It all makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense, but it's very cool. It's very vibey.
It is very cool. Yeah.
And you wake up into this world and it's a top-down perspective and you can dash and you can slash and you can shoot and you just kind of traverse the world trying to figure out what is going on doing those things because you can't talk to anybody. You can like nod at folks, or if you are actually having a conversation with someone, it'll like the listener who suggested this, Robert said that it's just that like 3 pictures is usually the most you get. And it's enough to kind of give you a sense of what's going on, but it's all very much like fill in the blanks. Like there's a lot of Dark Souls inspired like lore world building in this game. I think it's very much, just show, don't tell. Even the telling is just showing, really. It's just in a more specific way. Yeah, and there's you go through the world and you just have to discover these little parts of obelisks that you pull up out of the ground to pull up a bigger obelisk that pulls up an even bigger obelisk somewhere else. You have to do that in 4 different areas and beat the bosses there, and Bob's your uncle. You can upgrade your gun, your sword, your special move, and your dash as well, of course, in kind of like action RPG style. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward game. The combat's pretty difficult in some points. It's definitely a skill, like it tests your skill at many different ways and in many different places, but in very fun and fair ways. So once again, it's kind of Link to the Past meets kind of like a Soul sort of situation.
Yeah, and it's like fairly forgiving as far as like if you die, you usually just go back to the entry of whatever area you're in.
Yeah, you don't lose like a bunch of stuff. It's just like, okay, try it again. So kind of like Celeste in that way. But does Celeste even come out at this point?
No, Celeste was after this.
Celeste, which I like. I like just like trial and error. Just go back and try it again, you know?
Yeah, because it forces you to like just try and be good at the combat. Yeah. Like you're not having to like re-navigate to any of these places. And like sometimes the areas are kind of large and so you do have to like fight a couple encounters, but like by and large the challenge of it is like just get good at fighting and that will be like enough to carry you through.
It's not like Sekiro where the more you die, the more like a plague spreads throughout the world and people start hacking and coughing around you.
Yeah, no, like you just keep going.
You just keep going.
Yeah, I mean that's mostly it. I think the only other thing like worth noting is that is something that is mechanicalized, which is that the drifter, the person that you're playing as, which Alex Preston has said in interviews, like it works for this character. So I'm gonna refer to them as he. Yeah. That every now and then when you're wandering around, we'll just start like coughing up blood.
Coughing up blood and then like black rain will come from the ground and go up.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very like striking set of images. Yeah. And then every now and then as well, like when that's going on, it seems like he like blacks out and like has kind of like a vision or something. And there's this like creature that is seemingly always just like lurking around the drifter. And more often than not, when he has these like visions, it usually kills him, like, and specifically there's a couple of instances where it strikes him through the chest. But we're bringing it up now. Yeah. Alex Preston's deal is that he is this like artist who had worked on a lot of stuff before it, but a lot of it is informed by this congenital heart disease that he has. CHD, I think, is often the kind of shortening of it. And this is in, among other things, this is not the only thing that has plagued him. In this interview he did with The Guardian in 2016, he says, quote, "I've dealt with serious health issues since I was born. Congenital heart disease to start. A plethora of digestive and immune systems problems have left me hospitalized on numerous occasions and often near death. This gives me a certain perspective on life and plays into the stories I want to tell." So this like character that you're playing as that is seemingly like maybe always about to die is like very present in this game. Him like coughing up blood and shit like that. It's not a good sign at any point. Like that's bad shit. And then to have this like specter following you around pretty much all the time that like whenever you have these visions starts off the vision by killing you And then, you kind of see this like recurring set of imagery, and it is also like seemingly unkillable. Like in a couple of the cutscenes, the drifter like cuts it in half and then just immediately reforms to, be whole again. And so, there's this comparison. I think a lot of people have spoken about this already who have covered this game, but like there is this intricate tie between who the drifter is and the disease that he's experiencing and Alex Preston and this like congenital heart disease that he suffers from, because, sometimes this presents as nothing. Like people who have congenital heart disease, oftentimes like they don't have any symptoms. It's not a danger to them, but other people, like it could just kill you whenever. Like that's a thing that can happen. And so I think rooting this game, feeling like there is just this monster always like just inches away from you is really powerful. You really feel it in this game. And like whenever you're coughing as the drifter, it's like it slows you down quite a bit. And you're like, God, this does not look good. Like I'm really concerned about what's happening here. And so like just off the bat, I wrote, what's good about this game? Almost everything Lamau is the first bullet point
Lamau.
put on here. Lamau. Because like, damn, that's what a wild concept for a game. And to be able to like do that with such confidence is pretty mind blowing. To be able to communicate like, long-term illness like this and just the constant threat of death being there always is a very sophisticated thing to be able to lay out wordlessly. Like there's no text in this game other than every now and then it'll say, here's how you equip a different weapon.
You can warp here.
Yeah, it's like very, very simple shit. It's almost all mechanical stuff. And so you're not getting any of the tone or the vibe or the story from text other than some very specific shit that we will go into later. But largely it is just visuals and tone and music, which is all just like incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting about his experience as the game as the game creator, and it's just like what he's gone through in his life, because also the drifter is very much framed as being very competent and very like able to achieve great things, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's also just a very positive message of, hey, this person is sick, but he's still doing stuff. Like he's still slapping ass, I think is what Rob said too, slap cheeks, something like that. So yeah, it slows him down a little bit, but it doesn't keep him from doing what he wants to do, which that's a special message, I think. Yeah,
it's cool. I don't think it would surprise anybody to hear that kind of stuff, but it's neat, right? It's a nice like reminder, and I think especially like Preston has talked about this in a couple of different outlets it's like this disease kicks my ass sometimes, and like low energy is a part of that. And, this game had to go through a couple of like delays specifically because of that. Like he's like, I just don't have the energy to make it fast enough. But on the other end of that, in the same way, to be able to put this game out as the example of something that you can do is just, again, kind of mind blowing.
Impressive.
It's the same deal as being able to beat the final boss in this game. How much of this did you play, by the way?
I got through all of one section and then most of another.
It's not very long.
No,
if you enjoyed what you played of it, it's worth beating it.
Yeah, I plan to.
Yeah, it's I had like a save of the game that I had already almost beaten the first zone. As you said, there's like 4 zones. I don't know if there's a specific order. I don't think you can do the south first.
I did the frog.
I think you did the frog first.
Frogs are a real bastard, man. Those poor
frogs were brutal.
Those poor dog people, man.
The like otters,
they just got decapitated and flayed and shit.
Yeah, brutal. It was bad. It's very bizarre because the like art style is like, I wouldn't say understated. There's a lot of like really cool detail in there, but like it's oftentimes showing you like pretty horrific shit.
Yeah.
In a way where it's not like directly like zooming in the camera and being like, look at how horrible this is. They'll, it's like I can never remember the name of it, but like that painting of Icarus like falling into the ocean.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's like the bottom right-hand corner. It's like just something. It's like a part of the landscape, essentially. It felt like that, where there is like a like really brutal part of the scene, but it's not really calling your attention to it. It's up to you to notice it. Yeah. Like there has been a lot of violence done here, but like that's not even really what we're calling attention to here.
It's just part of the environment. Yeah, it happened.
Now, all of the zones all have like kind of those level of stories in them where it's like you just kind of notice like what happened here. It's really, really interesting. I think that one's one of the more horrific of the zones.
Yeah.
But like, the north is seemingly a band of birds that like turned into a cult.
That's the other one I got.
Yes, yeah, which is very, very cool. You get this like a little bit of a story from like this bird priest who's like, things used to be chill, but like they kind of took over, and I had to like escape with these other like
eggs.
little birds. Yeah, eggs. And so, they seemingly killed the people who like didn't believe in it, but all that stuff is really wild. There is a zone, I think it's in the east, that it's covered in this like kind of multiplying and rejuvenated crystals that a lot of people seem to have gotten stuck in them, which is, really pretty tough. Not a good time. And then the south is like much more about like the science and experiments that were going on prior to this like catastrophe in the beginning of the game, and sort of shows like what was going on with the story. Do we want to talk spoilers about this video game?
I mean, we can.
Do you care?
Medium. Because I am planning to beat it. So if there's like a big reveal at the end, I don't want to know. But if you want to talk in broad strokes.
Yeah, I don't think that there's really any reveals.
Okay. Do you just fight one of the big robots at the end?
No. Them robots are all dead.
They are. They're all scattered across the world in cool places.
Oh my God, yeah. So yeah, like in the beginning, there's like this scene of these, what the fandom kind of calls them Titans. I don't know if that's an actual... Yeah, they did an attack on Titan and they killed them. But there are 4 of them that seemingly got built. And in the vision that you get in the beginning, they all just sort of like crumble and decay into the wind. But you also see in all of the locations you go to, like clear signs of a fight and a struggle and them being now dead. Yeah. Right. In the frog one, it's like the Titan that's over there is like half submerged.
Underneath the water,
his, like,
in a
skull
lake.
is just above water.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Those moments are so cool.
They just pop up out of nowhere. And the bird one is like he's in the distance and like crumbled over a mountain. So good.
Yeah. And you get like near one of the like hands of another one. It's just gigantic. So it puts into perspective like how big the one in the background is too. Yeah. It's really, really cool stuff. But point being that there's like clearly some contrast between the vision that you were given as the Drifter and what seemingly actually happened here. Because the Drifter just sees them like die and turn to dust. But I think that you're supposed to see that like that's probably a metaphor for like the actual struggle that happened here. And a lot of it is like struggle that happened by the people who were living there. Like the birds fought the guy in the north and killed him. Or like the people in the east like figured out how to use the crystals to like shoot guns at the Titan. Yeah. But then the crystals kind of backfired and killed a lot of them too. So yeah, it's all like really, really cool stuff. And I love the sparseness with which the story is told. It's all really cool. And I think it asks the viewer to engage in a certain amount of interpretation because like I looked up like, okay, is there like a synopsis of this game? Like, is there like settled upon lore? And some people like sort of claim to be like, here's what I think happened, but almost all of them are followed up by somebody in the comments being like, I actually don't know if that works because of this thing. Yeah. Or like, here's how I interpreted this thing, which is really cool because I think it's just asking you to operate at an emotional level with a lot of these story beats rather than a logistical level, which is how like Zelda works most of the time, like it's how Link to the Past works. You're supposed to feel that game a lot more than like really get it all the time. And it's really cool that they're doing that here with this one too. It's really great. I think that the ending of it all is cool and leaves a lot of room open for like what happened in this game. Like, when am I like in the beginning, like, was I dead prior to that? Because like the Anubis is like the god of the dead, right? Like that is a true thing. And he seems to show up and like bring you through a door, that's how the game starts. And so I think a lot of it is sort of reflecting on that. And so, by the end of the game, you're like, okay, what does that mean about what happens? Right. It's really, really cool. And I think that again, with the kind of backdrop of this like heart disease and what Alex Preston has talked about of like, I've come close to death pretty often, that I think that there is a pretty clear line of like this feeling of being given a second chance to do something and then being able to actually carry that out. It's really strong. It's really strong storytelling.
Yeah, that's awesome. It really, it is a fun world to explore and interpret, like what you were saying, because it doesn't give you anything really.
No, it's very sparse.
And I think that's interesting that there really isn't a consensus. It's like a unique experience for every person who plays it, which does put it more into the category of art as opposed to like Elden Ring, which is interpreted.
A Wikipedia entry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Elden Ring is interpreted, but there's also like agreed upon like, okay, this is probably what happened because it's more of a they're more like leaving clues for you to interpret it. Whereas it leaves you broad strokes to then make your own image from.
It's clear in the imagery, but what you do with that is definitely the more complicated part,
absolutely.
Right? Of like, I see it, but like, what does that mean? You know? And like, not really in the way that like metaphors are breaking down or anything, like the visual metaphor of like what is actually being represented, but just like, what is this character seeing and can I trust that? And like, what do the things that they've seen mean? What actually happened there? Yeah. All of that's incredible. It's really, really good. That's like, also, we haven't even mentioned like, God damn, is this gameplay really just astronomically good? It feels so good to play. It does feel good
to play this game. Yeah, just the combination of slashing with your sword and shooting with your gun, and your gun is refilled by your slashing is so satisfying, because you don't really want to be too close to enemies, because your character does not move as fast as anyone else. He can you know, dodge, or what is it, dash. He can dash pretty quickly, but his base move speed is movement speed. Oh my God, I can't talk. His base movement speed is fairly slow compared to just like regular enemies in this game. So you have to be pretty strategic with how you're positioning yourself, where you're trying to go. You have to read the enemies, like what they're going to be doing. So it does a pretty good job of creating this read react style of gameplay into a Link to the Past whereas most of those games, they just play like, okay, you just have to make sure you're like a specific amount away from this enemy to not get hit, and you just like poke, whereas this really takes it quite a few steps further to make it much more of an engaging cerebral experience, as well as like one where you have to respond quickly, like reaction time as well. Yeah,
it's really cool. There's like kind of a lot of time after you've done your 3-hit combo where you're pretty vulnerable. Like you can't just keep slamming slash to like hit the enemies the whole time. And so you really have to figure out like, okay, so these enemies have like 2 health, so I can definitely get them quickly, but there's a guy next to him who has like 5 health. So what am I going to do with that? Because the 3-hit combo is not long enough. And if I just do that, I'm going to be kind of a sitting duck if I like dash in and don't have enough room to dash back out. And so, it feeds into this like really cool loop of like, okay, I'm going to hit a few times, dash away, shoot them with the gun as much as I can, maybe run out of like the bullets for that, which will then kind of force me back in to hit again. It's just so clever, despite the fact it's like, doesn't feel that complicated most of the time. No. Again, very, very Hotline Miami to just be like, this is a fairly simple combat system, but like the execution is the hard part. Yeah. Without feeling horribly frustrating, you know? Yeah. And it's like a lot of the fun comes from going into a difficult room, kind of getting your ass beat, and then going back in with a game plan, and then carrying out that game plan. That's when you really feel good about it. Almost like in like a super hot sort of way, or what's that other one? It's a side scroller where you have a Katana Zero, or like Katana Zero, where it's very stylized and the action is very quick, but you really have to know how you are tackling the situation with what you're given. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like practice doesn't feel bad in this game. Like whenever I get killed, I'm like, okay, I've got a new plan. I can figure this out. I should attack these people first and then use my gun and then go around here. Maybe I shoot my shotgun, right? A lot of different ways you can do it. Yeah, it's really good. And like, again, kind of referring back to older indie games, it feels very Meat Boy of like you figure out your plan, and then it's kind of like just working to figure out how to do it right. And then over time, eventually, you'll come to the conclusion of like, okay, I did it. This was the right way to do it. And yeah, like I said, it never, I feel my instinct is that would be a frustrating experience, but it simply isn't. No, it's hard. There's a lot of moments where I was like, I died like 5 or 6 times and I'm like, damn, that was pretty tough. But I always just felt like I was equipped with more information, or, I wanted to try a different approach. And oftentimes the different approach is the way to do it, where I'm like, I'm drawing too many guys in at once, or like, maybe I need to play really far back compared to how I'm approaching this situation. Yeah. And I think it's made much more palatable because of the generous checkpoint system and the fact that you don't lose any progress, like stats or anything like that when you die. It would be so frustrating to have to like run all the way back from a checkpoint or something. It would not be horrible. Fun. It would not be fun. No. They chose the right things to take from Souls games to put into this one. Yeah. I just always really appreciated it. To me, that shows confidence in your combat, because you're like, this is so much fun and so tight that we don't really even have to put any other meta mechanics on it. Like, you're just going to get in there and fight. You're going to want to get back into it. Yes. Yeah.
You're going to want to do as best as you can just because you want to do as best you can.
Because it inherently feels pretty good to beat everybody. Good. I also love whenever you do like kind of a longer fight and the drifter like throws the sword down into the ground.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
When he first did that, I'm like, hell yeah, I did. That is how I feel right now. I took all those dudes down and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. So thank you for recognizing that, drifter.
Yeah. I also really love how many secrets are in this game, just everywhere.
The maps are so intricate.
It's so nutty. And like, it reminded me so much of playing Metroid, and like, not in the Metroidvania sense of the word, but where I'm playing Metroid, just shooting everything because I'm like, is there a secret over there? Is there a secret over there? What's this thing?
There sure
is that
could
a
be.
hidden wall or something like that? And especially once you notice, and like kind of minor mechanical spoilers here, but like whenever there's a little square on the map, your brain's like, hey, something over there.
What's up with this?
Game is telling you like there's a hidden something this way. God, that is satisfying. That is so much fun. And yeah, there's so much stuff hidden in this game. Like you were saying, there's these like credits essentially that you can build up to like upgrade your move set or your dash or your health. Your like health pack pool. And so whenever you find them, you're like, oh, cool, nice. I'm going to get like some more cool shit with this. And so there's a lot of those hidden, but there's also these like monoliths that you can find that whenever you find them, it like lights up this like panel and eventually you can read some stuff with that.
Ooh, I had no idea what that does. I'm just like, what the heck does this thing do?
There's an area that you go to that if you find it, you will see like, oh, there's, 16 of these things on the wall. And I've gotten like 3 of them or something. And once you get it, it like gives you some actual text from the game. You have to translate it yourself. And so I just looked up like, what did this say? But it's really cool to kind of see like what they decided to put to text here. And especially like it is buried in this game. You have to work really hard to find it. And even still, the text is like prose. It's not like, all right, here's what happened. It's like very ethereal and is like kind of speaking in metaphor and shit like that.
Its feelings.
Yes. And so I found all of that like really effective. Yeah. And once you beat it, I'd love to talk about it. I don't know that it's like a particularly heavy spoiler with any of it, but it's cool to kind of like read through it and be like, all right, what does that mean? Because it doesn't really clarify anything. It's just like, here's another angle on like what you've probably already surmised.
Man, I feel like Tunic took a lot from this game.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a lot there from the kind of sparseness in the approach that they have.
The very intricate levels with a lot of hidden secrets. The monoliths, like they remind me of the big like door that you had to do at the end of Tunic, right? Yeah. It's like great game leads to another great game. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, and even just like on a mechanical layer, it reminds me of Death's Door too.
I was say Death's Door also. Way. Yeah,
really good stuff. They both feel just like tuned within an inch of their life. It's very fun. It's worth noting too, like the visual and audio layer of this game is incredible. Like
the music is so good.
It's unbelievable how good the music is in this game. It's of course done by the GOAT himself, Disaster Piece.
Oh, you said that before. No wonder it's so good.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Man.
Anybody who like doesn't know who that is, Disaster Piece, like for a long time was like a chiptune guy, just putting out like music for chiptunes, but then has also like scored a lot of video games and gone on to do film scores too.
Chiptune being like a 16-bit type of music genre.
Yes, yeah. And I think like a lot of his music employs that like kind of visual or that audio texture, but like it is so much more full than any of those original soundtracks could have been. Yeah. It reminds me of kind of what Signalis is doing with its game design, where it's like, here's the style of this older thing, but we're doing a lot more than that.
Push it to the max.
Yeah. The first time I heard him was in Fez, the soundtrack for Fez, which is incredible. But he also like scored It Follows, and then Bodies was another one that was really, really good. But yeah, just like unbelievable sound design in this game. It manages to be both like beautiful and so unsettling, eerie at the same time.
Yeah. Ethereal.
Incredibly eerie and scary. I'll use this chance in the episode to play some of Visions is the title track I want to do. But it's like this kind of like quiet and like thoughtful piece for a lot of it, where there's like a lot of just open air in the piece. Like he'll play a couple of notes and just like let them hang for a long time. And then there's this like very dissonant couple of chords that he plays. And this is for context in the game, this is where you see Judgment, the character that's kind of following the drifter for the first time in the cutscene. Just a horrifying soundscape as you're playing it. And it just rides this line between being beautiful and so scary. It's incredible, and I think that is the tone of the game, right? Like it is quietly very beautiful, and like you get these incredible like vistas and beautiful landscapes, and then you just like come upon this like ancient fucked up titan that is like dead or something like that, you know, like that kind of stuff. It's the whole game. Or you know, you're wandering through a place and you get this like amazing achievement of finding one of these like pieces of a triangle that you have gotten, and then you know you have like some kind of like coughing up blood fit, and then have a horrible vision. So I think just like the music and the soundscape are just so tightly coupled with what makes this game
They do a great job of increasing and swelling the music at certain parts, and then also taking it away. Yeah,
it's really comfortable with volume changes, which is not something that I really appreciate usually in music, but it's like very cool with being totally quiet. The only other game that I can think of that does this well is Breath of the Wild, where it's like they'll play 3 notes as you're wandering across a hill and then nothing for another 15 minutes, and then very scary music when you encounter like one of the what are those things called? The robots in that game?
Oh, the Guardians?
The Guardians, I was going to say the Zonai.
Yeah, I think it works because the music is just so understated that going to 0 isn't a huge change, but then going just like a little bit to like medium, right, to mezzo, you really just notice it. Yeah. It's just a good exclamation point to something that it's trying to visually bring you to in the game as well, typically. Like a cool thing to see.
It is. And like that's something that I had taken a couple of music classes in like college and shit like that, and something that a lot of them had talked about at the time, or the professors I should say, they had mentioned like, oh, like music these days, it's all just like compressed to hell and it's all the same volume. And like I don't know that I agree that like pop music needs to be like classical music or anything like that. That's not really an opinion of mine, but like to see volume employed in such a smart way here is like, I kind of get it for this scenario of like how much of a flex it can be to make the volume much louder in moments and then be so quiet in other moments.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. Disaster Piece does this in the Fez soundtrack too, where like some moments are like almost too much with some of the music movements, where it's like it is just like a wall of sound, and then it will just kind of like slowly fade back down to being just like a piano playing or something like that. Really, really incredible stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I like this game is unbelievable. It's
really good. It's really good. I don't really have any criticisms.
No, not really. Like any of it is just like nitpicky, subjective shit, you know? Like I guess that's what all criticism is nitpicky, subjective shit. But like I feel like it's oftentimes this segment we will choose games that are okay. So again, like if you're new here, this is not the norm. We usually pick games that are fine to talk about here. But it's kind of a nice treat when it's just like everywhere I look in the game, there's something that I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. That's very good. That's great.
Absolutely.
Nice little treat for you and I.
Love it.
Anything else about this game?
I think I touched everything that I wanted to talk about.
It's very good. It feels good to play. It doesn't feel old at all.
No, it's still a unique experience. And I think it's if you like this style of game, it's fun to see where a lot of the modern indie games are taking a lot of inspiration from. And it feels like a lot of it comes from this one. Yeah.
I mean, like Bastion had come out before this, and so I can't say that Supergiant took too much of this, but like you can see the connective tissue between this and Hades. Yeah. You know, like it's not that far. No. And I think that's really cool. Like a lot of those kind of top-down action games feel in a similar realm to this game, and it's not hard to see why. It's a really, really good game.
It works well with this camera perspective.
Yeah, and like I was saying about the kind of like march towards games being bigger and bigger all the time. This game, I think, strips a lot of that back and is like, what does Hyper Light Drifter need? What is the stuff that we need? Because like dialogue is not one of those things. So like, let's not do it. You know, it's really cool. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that there are 4 areas in this game, and there are, of course, 4 valves on a heart, which I was like, nice. That's cool. I like that. I don't know if I mentioned this explicitly, but Heart Machine is a reference to the fact that like Alex Preston had to get like work done on his heart and is sort of like powered by, you know, machines at this point.
Is it a
like
pacemaker?
I think so. I think that was the deal. I didn't write that down, but he had sort of like mentioned that is a thing that had, you know, felt true for him, was calling the company Heart Machine. So it's really cool when there is this like vision of a game that is so uniquely realized like this. Obviously, like games are big endeavors with a lot of people. And so just inherently, that's not always going to be the case. But I think indie games suit themselves really well to kind of smaller teams where it's like, here's the thing that I really want to accomplish with this. And here's the story that I'm trying to tell. It's really cool.
They killed it. They did great.
They killed it. They sure did. It's really great fucking good. Yeah, I think you should beat it. It'd be worth kind of rechecking in once you're done with it.
I'm curious. I want to see.
I also found the like last couple fights to be like very good.
Love it. Love to hear it.
We didn't even mention the boss battles. They're fun as hell.
They're super
really
good. Fuck that frog, dude. That frog was a bastard.
Yeah, Frog is tough. Frog was also like mean. Frog was evil.
Oh, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
He's a real jerk.
He's a real jerk. It's again, just like the storytelling. Like there's like some sputs on his face and I'm like, did you get like corrupted? Like what happened to this guy?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I really like it. Anyway, Robert, thank you for your suggestion.
Yes, thank you.
What a treat to be able to play just like a straight up very good game.
Beautiful. Love it.
Hello, gamers. It's me, Chase, and I'm here to guide you through the outro. We did a little bit of it up front, so I'll spare you some of the gory details. But if you want to check us out on the internet, you can go to podtimism.com. It's got a link to our stuff, our Gmail. If you want to email us, it's got a link to our Discord, which you can come hang out and talk with other Podtimists and other enjoyers of the TWG network, which we are a part of, theworstgarbage.online. Got other shows there. Not just us. It's us and Into the Aether and Can't Let It Go and Paws and Claws and .zip, which I am on sometimes. And you can also even read there. You can read Wavelengths, Brendan Bigley's blog. It's
wow.
good.
You can even read.
You can read there.
That's big news.
That's big news. Hey, check this out. Go to www.wavelengths.online. You can read. There's words there.
In case you have not read on other parts of the internet, in case you're just feeling through the internet.
It seems like a lot of people are. Is happening. It's mostly just feeling. So you can do all that. Did I mention Frog of the Week is on the network?
Frog of the Week.
If not, Frog of the Week is there too. There are also links on that website to other things. And I think I'm going to add a link to our YouTube in case you want to listen to our podcast via YouTube. We're a tuber
Should
now.
We make a VTuber that reads our episodes?
Who would be that guy?
I don't know.
Who would be the VTuber?
But there should be one for both of us, right?
Yeah, or just one turbo guy.
One turbo guy. Who's the turbo guy?
It's Chavid. We can finally visualize what Chavid looks like.
Chavid Ball Heart.
Mm-hmm. Chavid Heart of Vides.
Heart of Vides.
A strong contender. I like that. Anyway, so you can do a bunch of that shit on there. We already told you to fucking rate and review. You get it. Thank you, Scout Wilkinson, for your work on our podcast art. It's really good. And I like to look at it. And it's just very good. I like to see it. If you want to check out her stuff, she is at ko-fi.com/humblegoat. You can check out what's going on with her on the internet. Sometimes her commission's open. I don't think they are right now, but keep an eye on that space just in case. I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Yeah. We appreciate you being here. Back to a long episode. We've been on a streak of like a couple 60-minute like little guys, and here we are 2 hours in, depending on how much this cuts down to.
Yeah, it's a big one. Had a lot of good things to say about this game.
I know. Yeah, that
makes it easier to make a long episode when it's a good game.
Half,
just like ooh.
Yeah. I gotta go in. I gotta lock in and talk about these games. So thank you for listening. We really appreciate you being here. There are 1 million podcasts, and you chose to listen to us. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. David, do you have any gaming wisdom?
Oh, going to an arcade is fun. Go to an arcade with your friends, everybody. Bring arcades back. Bring back physical spaces to hang out.
Yeah, we've been needing third spaces, and I think arcades are going to be it.
I mean, if they'd give me a flat rate where I can just play for an hour, just bang those bongos wherever I want, I'm there.
Sounds like a euphemism, but I know you're talking about Taiko Drum Master.
I am. That was fun to say. Yeah. Now, visit your local arcade, your locally owned and operated small business arcade. They care.
Hey, can I come in here and pay you $11, bang my bongos? Excuse me, sir. Can I bang my bongos?
Just
here?
a man on the street. Come bang my bongos. $11 for bongo banging. Come on down.
Come on down.
I would go. I would check it out.
We got Neon Genesis Evangelion, baby. You can play it here.
You want to bang the
bongos
to Shinji?
Shinji, get in the bongo.
Get in the bongo, Shinji. You got to sync up Shinji Kabata bongo harder. It's just Neon Genesis Evangelion, but they're just banging bongo drums when they're in the... when they're in their robots.
In the mechs, yeah.
Damn.
Eon
McGregor Evangelion.
I need to look at the word to be able to say it. Neon Genesis. No.
Yeah.
Neon. I'm looking for bongo. I'm trying to put bongo in the word here somewhere.
Neon Bongogis.
Perfect.
Evan Bongolon.
It's perfect. It rolls right off the tongue. Really memorable.
Bongo,
very
bingo,
spellable.
bongo. The anime.
Neon Genesis Evan
Bonglion.
Bonglion. Yeah, that's it. That's perfect.
Neon Genesis Evan Bonglion. Of course. I know exactly what you mean.
The first result is when you search Evangelion on the internet, is what is Evangelion in the Bible?
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Angels.
I'm hitting these drums for God today, baby. Bongos for Jesus.
I am exalting the Lord right now with these bongos.
All right, see you next week, everybody.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.